just how somebody goes from maybe hopeless, nothing, labels that you had before to getting into the IT space.
My drug of choice was homeless. I was living in the streets, overdosed quite a few times.
You developed a software, HOPELINX. What inspired you to have this idea, and then where do you see it going?
I was working in the specific recovery house, and I remember specifically there was a time where somebody asked to talk to me. There was something going on, and I was busy. Person ended up leaving the house, and they never came back. They left and relapsed and died. That was like one of the times where I was just like, man, I wish I would have just stopped what I was doing and talked to that person. Maybe that would have changed the outcome. I wish I could have had time. And then from there, I was like, well, I can probably try to start making something that would make sense that has that, and then everything else that's needed in the recovery housing position.
Has AI wiped away your career at all, or has it enhanced developing website, programs, anything like that?
I think the thing that scares me the most is...
Welcome to Beyond the Label podcast. I'm thrilled to have Dave Allmon, just a tech entrepreneur, but also somebody who's overcame a lot of challenges. Myself personally, I don't even know what IT stands for. It's difficult to talk to Dave sometimes on this stuff, but I would love to share, just how somebody goes from maybe hopeless, nothing, labels that you had before to getting into the IT space. That seems to be like a jump, to learn that.
So definitely, it's been a journey coming from where I came from to now, and IT, information technology.
It makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but not so much necessarily in like IT per se with like physical hardware stuff, but more involved and indulged in like programming or web development, web application development, and stuff like that. But coming from just like a little backstory of like where I came from. So, I was down and out for quite some time. Over a decade ago, I was living in the streets of Kalamazoo, Michigan, homeless, addicted to, my drug of choice was heroin at the time. And I was just the daily grind of like trying to get the next one, overdosed quite a few times. And I think, by the grace of God, I was able to get out of that. But it came about in a way to where I feel like I came to like a realization, had some type of, spiritual awakening or experience. I realized that I could not live life that way anymore.
Yeah.
And the person that I called for help at that specific time was my mom. I was actually locked up in jail one time in the summer, and I remember I called her, and it was like the first time that she answered while I was in jail, because normally she wouldn't answer because like it costs money. But she answered, and I said, "Mom, I need help. I don't know what to do, and I'm just lost." And I remember she said, "Well, where are you at? When do you get out?" And I told her where I was at, and I told her when I got out. And the night I got out of jail, she came and picked me up, and then she dropped me off here in Toledo, Ohio, at it was the Salvation Army, ARC, and that was kind of like where my journey began, and like the beginning process of like recovery and what I was started to do in my life. So yeah, it's definitely been a long journey, and I think when it comes to like the entrepreneur and getting involved in that space, I think naturally I see problems and I want to fix them.
Yeah.
And with having experience in that, like I don't know how many years ago it was, but I started my first business. It was like a web design business.
Yeah.
And I love doing that type of stuff. I just love creating. I love building, and being able to have somebody express like what they want and being able to see that vision for them and to create that for them. It was a really just like, it was a cool thing.
Yeah.
It felt good to help somebody like create their vision. And then I think it was a couple years after that, I was also working like in the recovery field as well, working in recovery housing, working as a case manager.
How's that work from going from being in a jail to work in the recovery field? What did you think it'd be like when you started? Were you motivated to start? Did you feel like it was a passion, or were you forced? Because sometimes it's like people are forced. They go through a program, that's all they could do, you know?
No. So the way it worked at where I was at, so I went to the Salvation Army, and it was a very different program, like in comparison to a lot of treatment facilities right now. Like it was work therapy based, so you had to wake up at the crack of dawn. You had to go do your devotion, eat breakfast. Then you had to work for 8 hours in like a warehouse or on a truck. And then after that, you got back. You had to take a shower, do another class, go to church, do a whole bunch of things. So it was like very, very well laid out in structure. And that was exactly what I needed. And then when it came time for like me to be done with that program, I didn't necessarily want to I didn't have the idea yet to like work in treatment or recovery housing. But I did end up working for them. I became a Salvation Army truck driver.
Wow.
And that was kind of like the beginning of it, because you had an opportunity to develop a relationship with your truck helper, which was like essentially somebody that was also in the program.
Yep.
And I remember there was one person specifically that was my truck helper, and we developed a pretty good relationship. And, they were asking me these questions about this, that, and the other with, what they're doing in terms of like, the 12-step program and stuff. They asked me to be their sponsor. And then like right then and there, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like being able to be at work and then also to being able to like help someone out, and I think that's where like the idea came from in working in either treatment or recovery housing. And then I remember now that the job that I'm talking about being a truck driver, that was, at the time I had just met somebody. I met a female, and it was kind of starting to get serious, and the wages weren't there for me, it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough income. And I remember it was also too a really physical job as well, being a truck driver. Like you had to go to certain stores and pick up all this crazy heavy furniture, and I'm not like a really built person,
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. So anyway, I had met somebody in the Salvation Army that went on to work in treatment, and they became, I don't know, like higher management. And one day I just called the person. I said, hey, I'm about to leave this job. Can I work for you? And he was like, yeah, come on over here. We'll get you set up in the recovery house. We'll put you on thirds to start. You can get your CDCA.
That's how you get it. Yeah, that's how you get it. That was my first job.
Yep. And I was able to do that. So I was working third shifts. And the person that I just mentioned a minute ago about like who I met, she's not my wife. And during that time, we ended up having our first kid.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then that's kind of like where the start of like me working in like treatment and recovery housing started.
Normally those stories are rare. We don't meet positive people, or maybe not the best match at first. What would you recommend is the best way to have a healthy relationship straight out of recovery?
So when I was at the Sally, that's what we all call it. The Sally. Yeah, that's what we call it. Sally boys. But my sponsor, he was kind of lax. He didn't, because like, you hear a lot of people say wait a year until you meet somebody or try to get in a relationship. And he was just like, check your motives.
Yep.
He said, check your motives. What are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? So I kind of really had to look at that. And I think I did end up waiting like about a year until I got into that relationship. But I think the most important part was like, what are my motives? What do I really want? Do I want, just a physical, intimate relationship? Do I really want a partner and a marriage and a family? And deep down, like I always have wanted to be a family man. I've always
Oh, wow.
wanted that, but I never got to that point in my
Where's
life.
that come from? From childhood or just when you woke up in recovery?
Yeah, I don't know. I think looking back at my childhood, I had a pretty decent upbringing. A really good mom, a good dad. Um, and I think it just came from I don't know if it's like and just like instinctual, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but I think I've just always had that in the back of my head of like I would really like to just have, a partner and build a family, and really be that like that provider and more than just a provider, but just like be there for them, as much as I possibly can be, which is it's difficult. It's definitely been a difficult process, but no, it's really really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I was thinking, especially that kids are growing up now and, I know a little different, but AI is so prevalent now. People are scared to death, or do we use it or not? Has AI wiped away your career at all, or has it enhanced, developing website programs, anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. As of right now, it is probably one of the most helpful tools
Oh,
out
wow.
there, for me, and I'm assuming for other developers and for people that are not even developers anymore,
Yeah.
just because they have certain things now to where you can literally either type what you want or talk to it about what you want and it'll generate something for you.
Yeah.
It's not as good as it will be in the future, but I think in terms of what it is for me, so I use AI probably on a daily basis to help me kind of keep on track with what I'm doing. Just because I have so many things going on all at once, I need essentially like an assistant, and I kind of use it for that to give me, structure throughout my not just day, but my entire week or up to like a whole entire month.
What do you do? I get confused. I don't know if there's robots out there I see online. Do they schedule all the stuff in order? Do they make calls? I don't know what's going on out there. I seen somebody talking to a robot the other day, and they said they were watching everybody. I don't know what's real.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different things that people use nowadays. They actually just recently came out with a tool that will essentially run your entire like computer, but there's a lot of like security flaws in it right now. But I think what I do more and less is like I have certain things going on all at once. So I have this web design and development business. I have recovery housing software. And I also have like other projects going on as well. So essentially what I'll do is, with like utilizing ChatGPT, and it knows your history because every time you talk to it, it remembers what you're talking
Really?
to it about.
When you text it, does it remember? Are you
Yeah.
supposed to erase everything?
You can erase everything.
Yeah, but you shouldn't. It should.
I mean, it's up to you really.
Okay.
But for me, I'll just input like, this is what I have going on for the week. I need these things to get done. I have this going on. I have this going on. Oh, and by the way, I also have, a family too. So like
Yep.
keep that in mind. And then it'll just give me back essentially like a itinerary. And it helps me stay on task, and I'll just like input it into my Google Calendar or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, there are a whole bunch of other different types of tools you can use for like automated emails, and
How you do that?
they have
Like it links to the AI to the Gmail.
yeah. So like
Jeez.
when you get an email now, it'll essentially create like it'll read the email, and then it'll create a draft for that email for you to look at, review, and then send if you like it.
I'm so behind. Man.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think AI is really, really useful. But whenever I get an email or whatever it is, and if it's AI, I immediately know, and it's almost kind of like I don't really like that.
Yeah.
It's not personable. So I try to limit like with what I do in terms of that, because I don't want to like, I'm not a robot, and I don't want people thinking I'm a robot.
Everybody talks in threes, comma, this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think AI will definitely change and is currently changing a lot of things in the world. I think the thing that scares me the most is the youth and AI and what that means for them.
Yeah.
Because if you have complete reliance on AI, it's not going to be good.
I know. One time I saw the news that I don't think it's true. It was like 1/6 or 1/5 have had a relationship with AI, which seems crazy. It also seems like you can just like Google, whatever you search, you can kind of talk it into some answers that you want to see. Like if I break a complex problem down, tell me this way or this way, but it still seems like it guides you. And especially on social media, whatever you like appears on your screen. You don't really get further education, But what do you think is going to be, the worst thing for kids or best thing for kids?
So the worst thing for kids is a complete reliance on it to where they no longer have to use their own brain and they use AI's brain. And that would just be awful if it came to that. The best situation is education, being able to educate the youth on how to use it properly. And I've had ideas in my mind of like doing something about that or trying to start some type of program. It's hard to find the time to do something like that, but it's definitely important to educate not just the youth, but everybody in general of how to use it properly. And there are a lot of people doing that right now, which is a good thing. I see it more in the business space or the nonprofit space, which is good. But on a personal level, people need to know like you cannot just have a complete reliance on this and for you to just expect to learn things. So I know when I use it, I try to limit it to the best of my extent, to the best I possibly can. But I try to use it more as a tool, and I try to also learn it, and I challenge it too. Kind of what you were just saying. It'll give you the answer that you're looking for.
I got in a fight with ChatGPT. I was working on this project, and I was like, just kind of like just shut up, and it stopped responding to me. I was getting angry. I was talking to her. I was chatting, and it just stopped, And I didn't like that either. But I don't like when it addresses me personally, like, hey, that's a good idea, Jacob. But everything's not a business. You don't need a meeting. Why don't you have a human connection? That's another discussion. But I think it's just like everything's been dangerous. You would see pictures like Great Depression time, all men lined up with big newspapers in front of their face. But I think this is, way different. The amount where we're going, I feel like kids are doing AI papers and teachers are probably grading them that way, but denying the fact that it's a useful tool. What do you think is the most important educational tool people need with AI?
To know, I don't know. That's a good question. The only thing I can think of is just like when it comes to the educational part and piece of it, it's more and less of like knowing that you cannot use this on a daily basis and have it do everything for you. For example, there were some things that I was trying to do. I was trying to write some type of like agreement or contract, right? And when I was doing that, I just simply put in there, hey, I want you to write this for me. It needs to have this clause, this, and this. And then when it generated the whole thing, I kind of read over it, and there were some things in there that I was like, that doesn't seem right. Like this doesn't. And then of course I asked it again, and it was like, well, I can't give you that advice because it's legalities and stuff like that. It can't act as a lawyer and stuff. So there are limitations to what it can do, but I I just think that there's some things that you shouldn't use it for, and you should essentially like learn how to do it beforehand.
Yeah.
For example, like instead of writing an essay, or instead of having it write an essay for you and then editing that essay, maybe you should write the essay first on your own
Yep.
and then put it in there to see if there's any improvements that could be made. Therefore, like
Yeah.
you're learning, you're still doing it yourself, but you have it essentially just proofread it and make sure that there's no errors or in areas where it could be improved, so you can learn how to actually like write an essay.
Yeah. I know you mentioned being a Sally boy. I think is the funny thing. If I was, let's say if I was homeless or somebody's watching this and they wanted to start maybe an AI business, web development, where would they start? Like, what have you learned through your business practices? Like, how could this be a really useful tool to pull yourself out of poverty, recovery, give you purpose?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people doing exactly what you're talking about. And I think the best place to start is playing around with ChatGPT or any other tools. You have, Gemini, you have Claude. There's so many options out there for people to use, but essentially just playing around with it. And then maybe finding some type of beginner course. I know Google has one. There's other courses out there too where you can learn the basis of AI. Definitely look for ones that might have like a more of like a medium level of like learning how to prompt it, because the prompt is everything. Like how you talk to it is how it's going to respond back to you. So
In no bad way, but I see people don't talk good in real life, and then they use ChatGPT. You could just see it,
yeah, yeah. But I think the prompt is everything. So being able to find those types of resources out there, whether it be free or paid, because I know there are paid courses. But yeah, getting a basic understanding of what it is and how to use it. And then like, I think like a simple prompt that you could use is something like, if you want to learn how to try to make money from it, is first of all, tell kind of AI like who you are, what kind of skills you might have, what kind of background you have, and then just ask it a question of like, hey, these are the things that I'm good at. How can I turn this around and make money from it? And
Yeah.
it'll give you a list of ideas of like, this is what you can do. This is how you can make money from it. And then you can go even further, pick one of those out, and then essentially ask it again to like break this down. Give me a structure, a week by week structure. In 12 weeks, how can I be making, $1,000 a month or whatever?
Yeah.
And it'll give you a pretty detailed layout of how to do something like that.
Yeah, because I feel like if I was starting no money, a lot of time, I'd research all that type of stuff, but I would also think this could, maybe we're too far ahead or not ready, but, I would study AI, but then I would also, put a list of local business owners, make sure they're $1 to $5 million, but then I would have meetings and demos with, maybe $500,000 a month. I'll set up all your AI, your integrations, because a lot of business owners don't have time, to learn. It's not like they can't do it, but I feel like that would be a good business to go after something, especially coming from nothing. Because people in the recovery counseling, they can talk real well most of the time.
Yeah.
Really good salesmen. We just use our talents for other things. So I think that'd be a good initiative for people to start. Have you ever seen AI waste your whole day or destroy one of your projects?
Yes and no. So AI has been around for a minute now, for a few years. And it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
And when it originally came out, it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But it was okay. So when I started playing around with it, I wanted to use it to like build a website for me, just to see like if I could save time. And when it first came out, the process of it was essentially you put into ChatGPT a prompt like, hey, I need you to build me this website, write out all the code for me. And then it did that, but then you had to like copy and then paste it into like some type of other program where it would compile it, and then you could actually like publish it to the web. And I remember playing around with it, seeing if I could do that. And it took me quite some time to copy and paste, and then it wasn't right. So then I had to delete it, and then I'd paste it again. And I eventually got it up and working kind of somewhat. But it took a long time for me to do that. Fast forward to today, it is completely different. There's tools out there that you can use. Like if you're a developer, a web developer or whatever it might be, you can essentially just have like this software program where you can prompt it and tell it exactly what you want it to build, and it'll build it for you. But the only problem with it nowadays is sometimes there still is like minor hallucinations, which is a funny word. Like it just like completely.
Like what, it's on acid or something? What's going on?
No, it gives you ask it to do you something, and for some reason it will respond back in a way to where it's just incorrect. It's not right.
Yeah.
Or it's completely just like not what you wanted at all.
Yeah.
And it's less and less nowadays. But yeah, essentially like you can just prompt it to do something that you want it to do in terms of like building a website, and it'll do it for you. So it's really, really interesting of how like it's getting better and better.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I'm excited. First time I figured out ChatGPT, I thought it was like a hidden secret. You know, in my field, social work, the notes are ridiculous. Like how you help people, but then you got to please these boards, and then you got to write this. But, you know, in real life, you know, you're teaching like a grown man not to hit a crack rock, but in you know, on paper, you have to, you know, provide conjugal behavioral, you know. But I thought it was a cheat code that only I had, you know. And at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most incredible thing I ever had, you know. And I think one thing I you know, love about this story, but you developed a software, HOPELINX, the CEO now, that I think, you know, puts such a good need, and your heart's in the right place where it can help recovery management. But I know you've mentioned the struggles you had before, and you know what it does. But I think you know, in my mind, HOPELINX solves so much. It takes recovery housing to the next level. It organized stuff, you know, and there's so much to come. What inspired you, you know, to have this idea, and then where do you see it going?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And thank you for that too. It means a lot. So I think what inspired me to build that software was like firsthand experience in working in recovery housing. We had all the tools to do our job, but they were scattered.
Yeah.
And it rose the level of difficulty to a level that was just not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a struggle needing to get everything done, having everything in a different place, not knowing where everything was at times. And all of that work, all of that time that was wasted could have been spent doing something more meaningful and having the ability to have time to like talk to somebody that's living in that recovery house and potentially like offer them, you know, whatever it might be that they might need. And I remember there was a few times where I was working in the specific recovery house, and I just didn't have the time to do that. Like, you know, I call it like being out on the floor, you know, so just like roaming around and talking to the guys. And there was a lot of days in the week where I wasn't able to do that because I was too busy doing other, you know, tasks that needed to get done. And I remember specifically there was a time where somebody asked to, they wanted to talk to me. There was something going on, and I was busy doing some type of, I don't know what, I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, the person ended up leaving the house. They left, and they never came back.
Wow.
They left and relapsed and died.
Oh, God.
And like that was like one of the times where I was just like, man, I wish I would have just stopped what I was doing and talked to that person. Maybe that would have changed the outcome. But it was moments like that where I was like, man, I wish I could have had time. And then from there, I was like, well, I can probably try to start making something that would make sense to like have everything all in one place. And that was like where the idea transpired. But it wasn't until I was actually working on a specific website that I was building out, and they asked me, they're like, hey, can you build this feature for us in the website? And then I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then that's where like the light bulb came on. I was like, man, I could probably build like something separate that has that, and then everything else that's needed in the recovery housing position, you know?
Yeah.
And then from there, it just started rolling. And then the recovery house that was using it, they really liked it. That was kind of like the beta version of it. And then from there, it was just kind of like fine tuning what features work, what features don't work, what should be added, what should be removed. And then from there, it kind of just spiraled into another place got it, and then another place wanted it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna move forward with this, and I'm gonna do this, you know?
Yeah. I think it's cool. I think about AI, I don't have no solution or anything like that, but I think about like screening tools for youth, right? Like, in my space, they use different scales to measure depression, anxiety, but I always envision a lot of times we don't tell the truth on pieces of paper, or we don't even have an accurate decision. For example, we might read something and say, are you hopeless? And a kid or adult, might not even know what that is. They might have severe depression and might not even know it. But I always wonder if AI can enhance our ways that we could screen earlier intervention and cut down ever even going to treatment facility. Do you ever think AI could be a tool, maybe not HOPELINX or anything, but it could talk somebody out of a relapse, like the sad story you had, somebody overdose? Like, could there ever be a place where, you still need professionals, but a tool to actually help them stay compliant and in recovery?
Yeah, I think it already kind of is to that point. But it's kind of like the human element in the treatment industry or recovery housing industry it can never go away.
Yep.
It can never go away. However, everybody's attached to their smartphones.
Yeah.
We're just attached to them. So if by some type of technology that comes out, if we have something like integrated into our brains or something, and I don't know, AI can just essentially scan it and know when we're about to feel this way or that way. It can send off alerts or something like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I could see of like what it could be in the
Dang.
near future, because everything is, accelerating so fast.
Yeah. No, I feel like a lot of little boys are going to have to go to church because they start seeing the real thoughts. You might be in trouble.
Yeah,
They might
yeah.
send you straight to church.
Yeah.
Man. No, I think that stuff's cool. I've seen technology where they could track overdoses, bad batches, connect to resources. I know one of your passionate tools is also, from my understanding, is connecting people in need to free resources with your technology. Where did you develop that? How can people have access to or download, any of the resources you have?
Yeah. So that was a recent project that I started not too long ago. So essentially, the idea or the reason behind that was when I was working as a case manager, I needed resources, right? And I could get them. They're everywhere. You got to ask so-and-so for this one or this one. You can put it on a piece of paper. You can have it on your bulletin board. You could go to a website too, and it might have the resource that you need, but it might not. And I remember thinking like, man, I wish I could just have like an app where I could just open up my phone and then search for any type of resource, and have that there. And that's kind of like where the idea came from. So yeah, recently I kind of took it upon myself. I developed a website. It's recoveryresourcealliance.com. So from that website, you can go on there. Currently, we don't have many resources on there just because we decided to not scrape the web with that, and just put like stuff in there for people to see. So we're going down the route of essentially like verifying resources. So we'll be, making calls to local organizations and stuff like that to see if they want to be on the app, and then kind of just go from there with that. But so like you would go to that website. There's like a search button right there. It's gonna you'll be able to click that button, and from there, I actually integrated AI into the search to where it's going to ask you what type of resource do you need. Do you need recovery housing? Do you need treatment? Do you need a pro bono lawyer? Do you need food, clothing, stuff like that? And then from there, it's just going to keep prompting you with like specific questions tailored to your needs. And then after that, it's just going to generate the list of resources that you're going to need based off of that conversation.
Yeah, no, that'd be sweet, especially on a professional side, if it could screen, get the right data, because sometimes, the words are so complex or it doesn't make sense when, you're in that state of mind, so getting that right away, When it comes to HOPELINX, I remember having, looking at community resources, and back in the day, I used to have a binder, and I would have to write out or type out like this, but by the time you call them, the grant doesn't work, the place changed, but I know in HOPELINX, you can hit some buttons, and all the resources pop out in the community. And you got to think about, one invention you had could save somebody's life, just off that. I think, being a counselor and stuff, case manager is cool, but there's so many ways for people in recovery, and one thing I wanted to think about, in your case, if AI could live forever, what would you want it to communicate to your kids about Dave Allmon?
Oh gosh. That I mistakes will happen, and you'll make them. Do your best to learn from them to become the better person that you can. I just try to live by the motto of like, I try to be better than I was yesterday.
Dang.
And that's what it is, for me. And when it comes to failing and making mistakes, like it's not the end of the world. It's really, really not. And I know, when I was young, when I was in my, adolescent to like 18, 19, 20, extremely hard-headed, didn't want to hear nothing from anybody. And I think everything happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad that the things that happened throughout my, early years and my addiction, I'm glad that it turned out the way it did, just because like it made me who I am today.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think being able to just live mistake by mistake and learn from those.
Yeah.
Like you just become better and better and better at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really good, really good question. I don't know if AI is going to do that, but
yeah, I'm terrible at intros, but for some reason I'm good at the ending. So, I think, thank you for coming on Beyond the Label podcast. Please feel free to subscribe or share this episode. But, most importantly, how do people find Tech It Dave, HOPELINX? How can they get involved in some of these services?
Yeah, so I have many things going on right now. So Tech It Dave, web design. I design websites. I also design web applications and mobile apps as well. You can find me on there on social media, Tech It Dave, also techitdave.com. HOPELINX is recovery housing software, designed specifically for sober livings and recovery housing. If you're interested in learning about that and want to get a demo, You can go to HOPELINX.com, book a demo on there. If you're interested in being a resource on recoveryresourcealliance.com, just go to that website, add your resource, whatever it might be. And I believe with that tool, we'll be able to definitely impact our local community, and being able to have all of the resources on there as we can potentially get on there for the sake of it being a mobile app. It is a mobile app as well. You can download it on Apple Store, the Play Store, Recovery Resource Alliance. Just search it and you'll be able to download it. And then I think that's all I have going on right now. I probably have more, but yeah.
Yeah, if not, share it. I appreciate you so much. You probably got to be one of the smartest people in recovery I know. So thank you. See you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Killed it.